CBD live from the Combine in Indianapolis. Beau, Nathan, and our coach, Freddie Kitchens, joining us in a fantastic quarter zip.
Yes.
We are big fans of it's the most versatile piece of clothing I think you can have, Coach. So I'm glad to see you endorse it. Fantastic Hall of Fame one, in fact, as well. So we thank you for that right out of the gates.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm going to keep it zipped this week. I caught hell from the family when I got home about it. Slid down last week when we were down in the Combine. But anyway, so
it was like Kramer. He was out there and he's loving it, Jerry.
Yeah, what do you want from the man? I think it's fantastic. That's the versatility of the
No
quarter
doubt.
zip.
No
Was
doubt.
it was I wanted to start there with as you're wearing the Hall of Fame quarter zip. What was that like? Had you been there before? And what was that like for you to go as a head coach of one of the most consequential franchises in this league, and to see the Browns' history down there is stunning.
Yeah, it truly is. And being a head coach in the National Football means something to me. But being the head coach of the Cleveland Browns means so much more. Yeah. All right. So a lot of people don't realize that the game of football in itself, there was 5 teams that started around the Canton area. So in Northeast Ohio is really the mecca of the beginning of football in general. So just as a football fan, it was important for me to go down. I'd been down there twice before. One time went through it, but it was one of those 20-minute deals that you run through right before you play the Hall of Fame game in the preseason. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time down there. We spent all day down there, and it was very, very special.
Coach, kind of what is it like for you coming to the Combine now as a head coach? How is it different than it would have been coming here as a position coach in the past? Well,
the biggest difference is I get to talk to all the players. I get to talk to every position. I get to get a feel for the person, the individual, the player, his confidence. What makes him tick is the biggest thing I get out of this. What motivates the guy? Can he be motivated? And if he can, what motivates him? And then see if he's going to be a fit for us. If it falls, you don't know who's going to fall where, and all these mock drafts.
That's right. We're not picking first.
Yeah, this is pretty. It's funny to me, all these mock drafts. You have no idea who 16 other teams are going to do before you. But so you have to have all your ducks in a row. And for us as coaches, we have to see if they're a fit for us. That way, we can give more input when our time comes with John and his staff.
When you go through those meetings and you talked about getting to actually talk with the player in the room, what is the most important thing that you want to know from them?
I want to see if being in the meeting room and having a normal conversation, can they do that? Sometimes people struggle to do that, and see how somebody learns. It's us as coaches, as teachers, first and foremost, to learn how they learn. And then we can, speed up the process of several things after that happens. And then see how they communicate. This game's about communication in all areas. It's about communication coach to coach, coach to player, player to coach. You've got to be able to communicate, see if they can communicate what they're trying to say or what we're trying to say to them.
Freddie, what do you look for? What do you look for as we get into this draft process? We're into that cycle now here at the Combine, and we're going to see guys bench pressing in front of a bunch of stands over there, and we're going to see them running in their underwear and that type of thing. And yet you have, for many of these guys, all of this film. How do you balance in the analysis of the film and all the measurable stuff that you get here?
I think you use the measurable stuff as a reference on what somebody did and how it equated to that player as maybe a benchmark. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at the tape. I want to see what kind of football player they are, and I'm down here to get to know them as a person.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts and ends with me. Now, different people have different means, but that's all I look for. And I grew up from in the line of thinking that just tell me what's on tape. That's what Coach Parcells. Don't tell me what they ran the 40 in. Tell me if they ran the ball down and made the tackle. Those kind of things. So just tell me what kind of football player it is. We'll come down here, get to know these guys as people, see how important the game of football is to them, see what they talk about, and then see if it relates over into the tape itself.
Are you enjoying kind of this foray into watching more tape, understanding, looking at players of every position, not just the group that you are coaching, being involved in how you're going to shape this roster, shape this team alongside General Manager John Dorsey?
Oh, definitely. I've been learning from John already on how he organizes the draft board and organizes free agency. And that's been very unique for me to see the beginning of the process and then come to fruition to the end. But, I love watching tape and football. I love the camaraderie of the staff getting together and saying that it's our offense and believing that it's our offense now. There's no egos. It's okay to communicate and take suggestions from other people to form our offense, the Cleveland Brown offense, the Cleveland Brown defense and special teams, and knowing what our common factors are going to be, but then fit everything else around it, and it becomes ours then.
Freddie, we've had a chance, and it's been amazing to talk to the 3 coordinators you hired. And every time that we would get done, we'd go, jeez, that guy's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since now you've had some time with these guys. What has that been like for you? This is just an incredible staff you put together. The very best people are working under you.
Right. Well, that was the goal, and that should be the goal every year, is to hire the best. First and foremost, I wanted to hire good people, all right? I wanted to hire people that football was important to them, but also they had balance in their life, all right? Why should my family suffer because I'm a football coach, all right? So my family is important to me. I want their family to be important to them. If you have balance, then you're not taken away from any other area, which is going to allow you to be the best coach that you can be for the Cleveland Browns. Going back specifically about my staff, that's what we did first and foremost. We hired the person. We didn't want to hire guys with egos. We wanted to hire guys that wanted to win and wanted to pay the price to win, because that's what we're going to ask our players to do, is pay the price to win. Winning's not easy and winning's not cheap, all right, from the standpoint of what you have to give to the game to get it done. And I want coaches that exemplify that, and we have. And I hired guys that are better in areas that I'm not an expert in all areas, and I'm a self-proclaimed non-expert in a bunch of areas. So, if I could coach the linebackers better than Al Holcomb, I wouldn't need Al Holcomb. All right. If I could coordinate the defense better than Steve Wilks, I would not need Steve Wilks. All right. So I hired people that are better and bring things to the table that I don't necessarily bring, and then maybe they can make me a better coach, and then I can give whatever I can give to make them a better coach. We're all in this together, and that's the first and foremost thing that I wanted to hire as a staff. And them to realize that there's no ego involved. I'm about one thing and one thing only, and that's winning. And winning the last game of the year, which is played usually in February.
Yeah. That's right, hoisting that Lombardi trophy.
Yeah. It's right over there.
It is right over there as we were here at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.
I brought it down here from Canton last week. I brought it down.
You were in charge.
They
trusted you with it?
Hell, it was on my trunk. So.
Guy does it all. He does it all. He does it all. Coach, I want to ask you about Todd Monken, because we had him on, and he was so impressive. And I have to imagine for you, you had so much success offensively. Everybody knows you're a great offensive mind. You've been around great offensive minds your whole career. Bringing in somebody who looks at maybe things a little bit differently, and Todd coming kind of from that air raid concept and what he was doing at Tampa. Has that been fun for you to kind of throw concepts together with him?
Yeah, it's been the most fun trying to think of the word that we're going to call our offense. Is it North Coast, North Shore? I don't know what it is.
Ooh, the North Shore.
But North Shore's not bad.
North Shore's
the
not
North
bad.
Coast, right?
Coast.
That's the North Coast. So
I guess,
maybe
yeah.
North Shore work. I don't know.
North Shore sounds a little more like.
Take a
Well,
poll
maybe we ought to
and see.
work on that. We ought to work
We'll
on
work
that
on it.
a
We'll
little
think
bit.
about
See what we
it.
can do
Yeah.
on that front.
But anyways, I like football people. I like football guys. I like different suggestions. I like having the thought put into your mind that maybe it doesn't have to be one way. All right, because it doesn't. Because you know what? I really enjoyed working for people coming up that would listen to my suggestions. Now, it may not be a good suggestion, but it's good to get those out of the way too. But it's one of those things where we're open to communication, and to get the best out of your coaching staff, and to get the best out of your players, you better be open to communication, because then you empower people, and once you empower people, that enables them to do a better job at their job. And then once they do that, then you're getting the most out of them, whether it be the center, the kicker, the equipment guy, or the guys cleaning up the locker room. Empower those people, because every job counts and every job is important. And I truly, to my core, believe that. And that's what I want them to believe. And I think they have some of the same values that I have, which was very, very good to see when we started this hiring process.
One of the things that I think has been really cool about this process is yourself and Baker, people who are tremendously gifted and confident, but also enjoy being challenged by other smart people.
Right.
And I see that in your staff, and I see that in your quarterback certainly. And I'm curious as the month, what's the communication with Baker over the last month or so? He's obviously having a good time, enjoying himself as he should. It's his off season, but what has that been like for you? And talking to Baker as his head coach, and now that you got this staff together.
Well, just I don't communicate with Baker about football right now. That's illegal, Beau. Okay?
I should have known that.
So don't be trying
Bad
to.
job out of me. That was entrapment.
But anyway,
Entrapment.
exactly.
It's entrapment.
This is at Mount Gilead. Come on, Beau.
Really? Don't get me started on Mount Gilead.
But anyway, Baker's only instruction for me was to get away from football.
Yeah.
The same thing it was with his off week last year after we took over a couple, 2 weeks in or whatever it was. The guy's been through, there's a lot of pressure in playing football in the National Football League, and especially at that position, and especially being a number one pick. And his process started this time, or a couple of months ago, this time last year. So he had a year and a half of it. He needed to get away from it, and that's where he's at right now. If we can't get him ready to play from April 1st to September, hell, we don't need to be coaching him.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly want you to be coaching, and I know we all know
I'm
you
going to be
can
coaching.
do
I didn't
that.
say anything about that. But we'll have him ready to play.
There's no doubt about that. Coach Doug Lesmerises wrote a great a series on you and going down to your hometown and learn about your family. And the one story that I absolutely loved and I could see you doing, and I could see Baker Mayfield doing, is the one where you launched the ball and took out a heckler from the rival school. Just can we just talk about that for a second? And has anybody given his Baker said anything to you about that? Because I could see him doing the exact same thing.
No, he hasn't said anything to me about it, and I'm not going to deny that happened.
It could have just been errant, but I think you're too good for it to be
some
errant.
of the words. 50% of the people in Alabama would say I'm not too good for that to happen. But it's one of those things where sometimes your competitiveness comes out, and I can't even deny it didn't happen in baseball sometimes. So, and hell, I think it happened a couple times in basketball, which I don't think is very relevant in basketball. But it's just one of those things that happen. I'd like to say I regret it, but I don't really. Once you do something, I mean, you got to own it. So.
That's right.
You got to own it.
How much fun are you having with this, man? I mean, it just seems like there's got to be moments. You're so busy. I understand that, putting the staff together, ultra competitive, but there has to be moments when you say, my God, look what I'm doing.
Well, everybody just sees the finished product on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays or whatever. But the fun is in the ride. It's just like I described a couple of weeks ago about going to the Super Bowl. The fun wasn't the game, all right? It certainly wasn't the result when I was fortunate enough to go. But the fun was in the journey of getting there. The first round, the second round, seeing the trials that happened, took place during the course of the season. That's the fun, and that's sort of like this. The fun part is the journey to get to that, because you know that this starts the process for coaches to get to that end spot in May, that some of these guys will become ours, that we get to continue to teach and build and try to strengthen for the course of us, to benefit us to win football games.
Real quick before you go, I just wanted to ask you about Greg Robinson coming back on the one-year deal. It was, part of that line that performed so well, best in the league over those final 8 games when you were calling the plays. How happy were you to see him back in the fold?
Oh, I was very happy to see Greg. He performed well with the help of his other guys, and he'd be the first to say that. But the one thing Greg realizes, and he knows that I realize, that Greg's got a lot of good football left in him. We haven't seen the best of what Greg Robinson's going to be. And if he's satisfied with that, he shouldn't have come back. But I think he knows that he's not been the best himself, even last year, which is probably the most success he's experienced in the National Football League. But he understands what's out there, and he understands where he's going to go, and he understands what it takes to get there. Now it's our job to get him there.
Freddie, this was great. Thank you,
Yes.
sir. We
Yep.
appreciate your
Guys.
time. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thanks a lot, fellas.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Keep those quarter zips up. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
Do the best.
You wear
this
them
is the last
however
one
you
I got in my
want.
bag. I can't wear it anymore.
You're the man. You wear it however you want.